Okay, there we go.
Perfect.
Hey, folks, this is Bruce Hutchin, otherwise known as Hutch, with Hutch on Hunting, and I'm with a good friend from La Crosse, Wisconsin area, Jeff Vance, and Jeff and I have known each other for a number of years. He was a guest on another podcast, and so I'm starting Hutch on Hunting, and I asked Jeff if he would be a guest of mine, and we've been spending about 10 or 15 minutes getting caught up, but we just ended our little warm up conversation on, is hunting becoming a pay to play opportunity for all hunters? What do you think, Jeff?
It's a it's a complicated question because there is opportunities for public land, but we all know in a lot of states it's starting to get stripped away. Like Iowa and Texas are battling for the 50th and 49th place for public land access. Hunting in Wisconsin is turning into a lease state to play in. The farm management land programs, CRP programs all across the United States have been shriveling up. Big tech and big Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation are buying up hundreds of thousands of acres of land all across the United States. So it's coming to starting to look that way because an average guy nowadays, it's like based off what we see in the economy, you can't buy a property for less than 200 or 300 grand. Currently in 2023, moving into 2024, our interest rates are 7 to 8%. So you're looking at 3 to 4 grand a month just for a mortgage on a piece of property that you may or may not be able to build on. So you have a lot of things to consider. And I was thinking about this over the last several weeks regarding all of the aspects of this, because a lot of guys that I've met are struggling to be able to find an opportunity to hunt or buy property because it's being priced so high. You're familiar with Wisconsin, even in Iowa, Minnesota. You're looking at ungodly amounts of money to be able to come in to buy some property, and it's like if you only have 80 acres, that's considered a small portion, and even still, that's 300 some $1,000 right there, and it's becoming a very difficult aspect for it. And I think right now the medium income or the medium household income is 81,000 nationwide on average. And they're saying in order to buy a home, your household needs to bring in 140 grand. So it's like there's this massive attack on the middle class, and it's making things more difficult to be able to move forward. And the worst part is that we're becoming who we fought against during the Revolutionary War. It's like we're moving right back into where we were and why we started the public land systems and why we developed all of these national parks and such, to have access to this, where if you're in Europe, you don't have this opportunity. It's like you have to be born into it to be able to enjoy it.
Right, or pay. And
Correct.
one thing I've done, because I do hunt and have hunted a lot of states, and I just, instead of buying land or leasing land, I just pay an outfitter for 5 days or 10 days, not 10 days, 5 days. And I pay him a monthly, what I would pay a monthly mortgage payment, to hunt, on a, what I would think a decent place to hunt. But I don't have all the intrinsic values of being a landowner. What is that? Well, I don't get to plan and to go to some of my friends and say, hey, can you help me set up my land? Which in and of itself has become a huge business. When these guys come in and they take maps and GIS and figure out, okay, here's where you need to put your water holes, here's where your stands need to be, here's your transition zones and funnels and pinch points and all this type of stuff. And that's part of it, because I know hunting season lasts from September through January in the state of Wisconsin. You can shoot bucks, you have a youth season, you can hunt during the rut, archery, then you have the gun season, then you have another doe season, then you have a muzzleloader season, then you have another archery season. So it goes a number of months. And if you're hunting your own land, 20 acres and up, you're in there developing it, cutting timber, taking logs off it, you're doing a lot of things on the land to improve your hunting, but you're still working the land, as I like to call it. And we're losing that for you and me. For me, I was out of the game a long time ago because I live in Colorado. I would not buy nor lease something in any other state just because I couldn't get there. I couldn't enjoy the things that I just said. I can't go up and say, gee, let's put up the trail camera here and let's see what we get and watch the oaks throw the acorns. And we had a great acorn crop this year. So it's all those little things that add into the value of owning land. So now, just as you stated so well, large parcels of land are being gobbled up by companies, individuals, as well as we're having pressure put on us of how you're supposed to farm. And it's a messed up world right now. I guess that's the easiest way to say it.
That is a fair point. And adding on to that too is like if you're a landowner now, you have to not only have to worry about trespassers, you have to worry about if anybody gets injured, and likewise with the taxes too on top of that, because a lot of folks look at buying land as an investment, but it's like how do you get paid off of that land? And it's like for myself, if I was looking to buy some property, I want to be able to have tillable and hunting land. Well, to come up with 100 acres, you're looking at almost $1 million. I mean, it's quite expensive depending on of obviously the county and the tax bracket you're working in. So it's like you got to find some way to balance it all out because it gets quite expensive when you're just having a land not producing anything. Because we a lot of we use these opportunities as land is that for that don't are non-landowners as the opportunity to go hunt and not have to take care of it. But if you're a landowner, you have to do much more diligence on maintaining it and surprising it and growing it to be able to be prosperous for yourself. But if you're buying 80 acres and it's not producing a profit for you, that's a negative balance that you have to eat, and that could play a very high level of stress on your family because buying a piece of land that doesn't have a house on it, it's like 200,000 to 300,000. But if you want to buy 30 acres with a house on it, well, now you're up to $500,000 to 600,000 for the house on it. So it's like you notice how quick everything escalates rather rapidly with the whole process. And now as I've gotten older, and I'm looking at this like, well, now that's that these people, these outfitters and such, they do serve a valid point with the whole thing because now if I buy a piece of land for 300 grand, well, if I get a mortgage on it, and if I'm lucky, in the next few years, it'll drop back down to 3 or 4%. But considering it, like you get a 30-year mortgage on it, you're going to end up spending $600,000 to $700,000 on this piece of property that you may never get to fully own because it's so expensive, and you're going to have to basically work to pay it off. Now, where it comes to play, when like we have like the bigger bucks outfitters that I just hunted in Illinois, it plays a role because it's like if I pay $3,500 to hunt for 5 days, well, I just saved myself hundreds of thousands of dollars from taxes and property and insurance and getting taxed on everything that I put on there. So it's like if I want to buy trees, I get taxed on the purchase of the trees. So it's like it's this constant hemorrhage of money.
Yeah, and I personally don't have that type of money that I can throw, at and not have a mortgage. Just got to write a check for 250,000. I found this property outside of Casanova, and a year, let's call it 2 years, they sold it for 120,000, 60 acres, bottom land. You cannot build a house because it's in the floodplain. You just can't do it. So it's bottom land with trees, creek bottom, blah blah blah. But they're selling it. Just came on the market again for 175,000 because they figured out there's something not right with that land. Either for them or whatever, access issues or whatever. So they're staying 160, 120, 175. They sell it for 60, 160. So they're going to make a bump by flipping it $40,000. And rightfully so, that's a good investment because somebody will buy it for $160,000 because it's 60 acres. So that's less than $3,000 an acre. In Wisconsin, that's not a bad price. But if it doesn't have deer, who cares?
You,
Yeah, what's the point?
Yeah, that's a very valid point because it's like you, at least with Wisconsin, we have the opportunity to hunt small game, turkeys, deer, and bear if you have bear walking through your land. But yeah, it's like we live in the Midwest. We live in one of the places that have some of the biggest bucks on record shot here in the U.S. But if it has no whitetails on it, it's like you're just paying for dirt that's you can't grow, you can't build a house on, you can't till it to grow any corn, wheat, soybean, or anything like that. So it's like you're just kind of just a wasp of land just sitting out there doing nothing.
Yeah, and you better, to buy a piece of property like that and develop it, you'd be able to develop it. There's probably the deer that come through, but belly areas and everything they need, food, shelter, food, shelter, water. Water's
Hmm.
there, shelter's there, but the food is on the neighbors, not on yours. So I think they found out that it wasn't what they thought it was, and they're going to move on. But let's get back to you know paid to play. And a lot of things. Let's look at it. You go play golf, and it's $100 a round now on a nice course, not a community course or rec course in Union Center, Wisconsin, where you can play for 25, $30. But
Hmm.
if you go to some of the big time places, it's hundreds of dollars, if not $1,000. I've never played Pebble Beach, but I would think that'd be one of the most iconic places you can think of. Any PGA tour, so that's $1,000 for 5 hours of play. So you go, huh? I like to hunt, and if I can hunt for 5 days, that's $1,000 an hour. That's $5,000, right? But I'm hunting, and I'm getting food, shelter, clothing, stands. The bucks are there. I've seen trail camera pictures. So this gets to maybe the smart thing for people to really start looking at is paying to play. And you brought up bigger bucks, outfitters that you got a good relationship with,
Hmm.
and I hope to be able to hunt one of these days. So let's just switch it over. Why don't you just start it off by giving a shout out to your friend that runs it, and then tell them about that operation, and tell them why companies like Bigger Bucks might be a smart thing to do, because you might be able to find places that you can hunt 2 or 3 times a year. That's $5,000 or $6,000. But wait a minute, you're paying that possibly just in taxes for 100, 200 acres.
Correct.
So
So
let's develop that. Let's open that up.
So Travis has developed a very nice uh, infrastructure there in
So
Illinois.
what's
He's
his
got
name? You
Travis
let
Bigger.
Yeah, and where's he located?
He's
Give it a
he's ba-
shout out.
he's based out of Media, Illinois, which is just east of just east of Iowa. They're right on the border. They're just south of Galesburg and east and west of Peoria, Illinois. So right in that area. So he's got a little over 9,000 acres worth of land. So that's the
And
nice thing.
what river is that near?
Let me look up that on because it's more like
I
a
don't I
creek.
know there's a river near there someplace.
Yeah, you are correct. I'll bring it up on my GPS real fast. Let's see here because I know it's not the miss. It's he's too far east away from the Mississippi. So
Right. And the Missouri. He's
and the
above the
Miss.
Missouri.
Yeah. Well, Missouri's on the other side of Iowa, so he's way too far away from that. Let's see here.
Yeah, because I thought he was near. It's kind of like the Wisconsin River Valley. He was just off of.
I'm looking at his actual property where he lives at, but he lives right next door to the railroad. But I don't. He actually does not live near a. The closest river is the Mississippi, but there are no tributaries to his area. There are a few creeks and such, but
Okay.
nothing to where it's actually. Oh, Allison Creek. That's about it. So that's not
Okay.
really
And
much to.
how far from the Mississippi is it?
Let's see here. So he's just maybe an hour away from the Mississippi. So
Okay.
Burlington is one of the bigger locations. That's only like 25 miles. That's Burlington, Iowa. That where he lives at. Then he's got Galesburg, which is a popular, and that's where there's a couple of podcasts that are based out there. This area is known for whitetail and such all along the Illinois River because it seems to be a very popular area for outfitters to have property along with. But he established his here a few years ago. I think he's been in business now for 6 years, 7 years, because I think he mentioned he paid off his lodge last year. He's after 5 years of having it operational because he used to be in the steelwork for 22 odd years, and the stuff he's gotten two knee replacements, back issues and such. So it's like he just took a big leap of faith, and it's paid off for him in dividends. He's got his lodge has 13 rooms. The upside is that he has so much land that he will not put two hunters on the same property that you're hunting. That's how much land and space he has. Granted, some of the places that I hunted, there could be 2 or 3 hunters there that we could be 60 acres away from each other and not ever have to worry about crossing paths. So he's got a lot of ample space from it to be able to pull it all off. He did it right though. His facility is clean. It's absolutely massive. It's a man cave, multiple TVs. You got opportunity to grill. He even has a pool there for the summertime because he also does do turkey hunting, coyote hunting too as well, along with whitetails. There's not enough bear in his area to actually try to guide for that. So, and most of the time he just does a really good job of understanding the deer habitat, has really great relationships with the community. He brings in lots of money to the area, whether you're going to a restaurant or just getting gas, buying ammunition, whatever you need to get to for your supplies. It's like he plays a very crucial role in the area and bringing in lots of extra people coming through the area. It's very well organized. I was really impressed with it. It's like it didn't feel like it was very professionally ran. And he had plenty ample parking for it. And it's even during Thanksgiving when I hunted out there, we still had 6, 7 guys out there. They were all hunting. We never crossed paths once. He had different places to put us all at. And everywhere he sets you up at, there are big bucks there. It's just there's a lot of pictures that he does not show anybody because there are things he doesn't want the public to know about, but he also wants to keep people coming back in the allure for it because you're not paying for a buck to shoot, you're paying for the experience, and that's what I like about it. It's like there's like I had a 160 come out in front of me at 9 yards, but it just was not in my cars to play. There's other people there was one gal that had probably at least a 180 class, but he was so far away that there was no way she would be able to shoot him with her crossbow. He really big into veteran organizations. He's really big. His big focus is kids. He loves kids. His daughters work there at the facility too as well to help clean everything up, answer questions and such. It's very family oriented.
So how did you find Travis?
So I met Travis through Brian Sparks, and he runs and owns Nelson Creek Outdoors, which he is a chemist by trade, absolutely mass savant, and he has the foresight and the inner working and the knowledge of working with deer and how to unlock their scent glands. And he's got a very successful company with developing scents. So I sat down and did a podcast with him and got to learn more about Travis. And then Travis and I have just become gotten closer throughout the last couple of years because I'm always seeing him at shows. We have a lot. Him and I use a lot of the same mutual products, like from Hunt Chef, from Jeremy Creichfeld, to Deception Scents that we both are just blown away by Parrish Elliott and Chris. Chris, don't get mad at me. I can't remember your last name. But we have a lot of mutual friends.
They'll
It's a
forgive
very
you.
small world. Yeah. It's a very small world on everything comes together, and we just clicked. We have a lot of we all have the same mindset, and we're about creating positivity and understanding and growing the sport of hunting because we're in a constant state of attack, And if we do, and our right now our biggest enemies are ourselves, and we have to figure out ways to have the core group of speakers out there that really speak positively about all facets of the outdoor world. That includes outfitting to public land.
So I hear you well. And getting back to my point, I've been fortunate to hunt, give a shout out to Judd Cooney out there in Iowa, hunted with Judd, and killed a nice buck, not a booner, but a nice buck. And and you mentioned it, it was the experience to be in Iowa, and I paid his price for that. But I had everything there. When I got ready to leave, I loaded up my truck and I was done. I didn't have any more responsibility to the land, forking out any more money. And folks, things are changing in America. I live in the West. We have millions of acres of public land, BLM and National Forest land. But it's crowded in Colorado. I own a company called Hutch on Hunting, and I consult with people coming from Iowa and Kansas and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. They say, I want to hunt. I want to get on an elk. I want to archery hunt. And that's one of my specialties. And I can tell them where the elk are. But unfortunately, all my hunting holes, all the places that I knew I could take you, Jeff, and in 5 days, we be in elk. I'm not saying kill an elk, but in elk 3 to 5 days. We be in them, hearing bugling, smelling them, wallows, everything, the same thing as whitetail hunting. Because if you're in a core area, if you're in where a buck is, he leaves the footprint if you can read the signs. Same thing with bull elk. It's no different, ladies and gentlemen. If you're hearing my voice, it's no different. So whitetail hunters, especially archery hunters, make great elk hunters. But because of technology, because of guys like me, having a business to help people do that, then it gets crowded. And over the counter tags are becoming less and less available in every state except Colorado. So if you're want to hunt Montana, you have to get the permit. Wyoming, I put in for 2 years. Hopefully this year I'll get my elk permit up there. But you have to put in year after year after year for other states. Colorado, because we have over-the-counter tags you can buy at Walmart, people come to Colorado. And sometimes the trailhead, there aren't just one or two trucks there. There are multiple trucks, campsites, multiple campsites. And I did, for the first time in about 20 years, one, because of I'm getting older and my wife won't let me hunt by myself anymore. I didn't go elk hunting. I didn't go up in the mountains. I didn't go to my favorite place that I can drive to, because I went last year and I don't think I'm coming back here, because there were too many trailers, too many horse trailers, too many trucks. And it said, this isn't fun anymore. So now I have friends that are outfitters that said, what do you think for a drop camp, to put me 10 miles away, 5 miles away, 20 miles away from a trailhead? And my farthest trip ever was 30 miles away from a trailhead. That was a big ride, but I did it when I was young. But I want to kind of change your perceptions, folks. Whitetail hunting or elk hunting, antelope hunting, deer hunting, whatever you want to do, yes, it's great to go down to your 40 down the street to your home farm. And if you got that, treat it like gold, because it is gold. But if you don't, if a guy like me, then you figure, okay, how many hunts can I do in the fall? How much is that going to cost me, as opposed to buying land? The only thing I would say, if you can buy the land, the price of land is going up. So that 100 acres that you bought for $50,000 now is worth 250,000. So you get some equity, but you can't get it out to sell it. So what's the point?
Yeah, that is a very valid observation when it comes down to it. And I hear you. Like when it comes down to public land in the Midwest, it's like it's fun hunting if you're a bow hunter, but once gun season hits, you get 10, 15 guys out there walking those woods. That public piece of public land is dead because it's like the pressures in there, the scents all through there. That's why I almost feel like some of the places such as Illinois, Wisconsin, Ohio, and a few other states now go all the way out until January 1st, 31st to be able to hunt out there because of the public pressure of gun hunting out there. Because it's a lot of people may are not aware of this, but most people that listen to this podcast are aware that when people are out gun hunting, they're going to do deer drives. And that pushes your scent everywhere. That disrupts their feeding patterns. It gets them out of their sanctuaries. It gets them away from the water. It gets kind of frustrating for the people that want to go out there, put up a stand, and just wait for them to come through. But all of a sudden, it's like you're setting your stand, and here comes three guys walking right by it. It's like, well, there goes my hunting season, or you're set for whether you're gun hunting or bow hunting. And then on top of the two, you have to deal with what's the word I'm looking for? Small game hunters. But usually those guys are very respectful. I've never had any of just confrontations with small game hunters because usually they're like, oh, they'll apologize, and if they're smart enough, they'll just backtrack out and leave you alone and just kind of coordinate and such when it comes down to it. But a lot of things too is like why outfitters or pay to play is coming to place too is that it's expensive. Like would you have like besides buying the land is a big thing, but it's also coming down to the time because we spend so much time having to work to pay for all this stuff that you don't have the opportunity to be able to actually utilize it because you're working so much between you and your wife, and you throw a couple of kids in there too. Everything, all that. There's a lot of what I'm looking for. There's a lot of takeaways from that opportunity to be able to do so, and that's something that is the biggest struggle a lot of people have or families have is time. And then when you're especially when your kids get to their teenage years, you're paying for a piece of property, or let's say your kids don't want to hunt. Now you're running into more of a difficult thing. Is like, what do I do with this land here? Because my kids don't want to hunt. I don't have time to hunt, or you're getting too old to hunt, and and what's the aspect of it? Because a lot of times too, it's like why a lot of people why we're starting to see this trend going towards to leases is to protect the farm, the landowner. Because I had Brent Smith on my podcast a couple years ago. He shot Mr. Big, that was debuted in the HHA Sports magazine, which is 190 some class buck, just absolutely massive. But he's an insurance agent there in Winona, Minnesota, and he's talking about it's like he brought up a valid point. Just like, let's say I invite you out on my property hunt, and you get hurt, and you're going to tell your insurance like you got hurt doing this, stuff like that. But the insurance company is going to want that money back. So what that insurance company will do is now sue that farmer, sue me, the landowner, for that money that they had to spend to fix my ankle or my knee. And so that's where we're seeing this trend to becoming a pay to play aspect of it, because insurances kind of destroy everything they touch.
One thing on the farm where I've hunted, I don't know, for 57 years is we've got stands that are that old. And we've been going around and taking the wooden stands and just, roping them up or chainsawing them up and cutting them down, because we told the farmer, the owner, he says, if anybody ever gets up in there, even though they be stupid too, because they're so old, you're liable. And so we've started to do that. So all the wooden stands, I think all the wooden stands are down, or because it was such a good area or good stand, it was really good stand. And year after year after year on this farm, it's a good stand. So we have them rebuild it. The point stand, I got a nice buck off that 4 or 5 years ago, but the stand was gone then. And so it tore it down. They rebuilt it. One of the guys built it for his son. He and his son shot a nice 8-pointer off it this year. So there's nothing wrong with the placement of the stand. It's a dangerous thing. And so if you got stands on your property that have been up there over a year and you haven't checked the straps, or if it's a wooden stand, rip it down, because somebody's going to get hurt and somebody's going to have to pay the bill.
And that is where that's why outfitters come into play, because they fit that niche role. Because now when I go out to, when I book a hunt with Travis Bigger in Illinois, I know that the stands are going to be up to code. He has every single stand rigged up where you have you have your harness on and you clip into it, and he's got every stand I was in had a rope that goes from the very bottom all the way to the very top. So this way, then you have a chance to click into it. So this way, if the wind or something, you lose your balance, you fall back, the safety cord would come into play, and you're not going to fall and hurt yourself. And his stands he's got stuff that goes from 16 foot all the way up to 28 foot up in the air, depending on what they've seen, that based off of their reconnaissance of all the deer coming through, what they found that with the hunters that sit in there that have had very good success there, and the heights they have based off the coverage they have around them and such. And that's like the way he has them all set up is like, this is what, if I were to buy land or if I was going to work with somebody that has a ladder stand like that, that's what we would do. And it's just a simple slip knot. You tether yourself to, and you walk it up, and it becomes tricky when you have an opportunity to shoot like I did. Like I had to figure out, like, make sure when I'm at full draw that my arm is not going to be hitting the buckle behind me, and I'm not going to be hitting the tree. So it's like there is a spatial awareness you need to have when you're doing all that stuff, but it does provide that extra layer. And that's what I'm really praising Travis about doing with all of his properties. And it sets that level of expectation that where you go to his and you go to someplace else, it's like you're going to see where other people are lacking at. Now, there was one of the guys that I was in camp with. His name was Arthur, and he was asking he was asking me for a recommendation to hunt up in Wisconsin for an outfitter, and that had the same level of quality that Travis had. And I wasn't able to provide him a referral because I told him I live in Wisconsin, so I have access to hunting public, so that's where I go off to. Now it's just like I just tell people, if there's Amish in the area, do not hunt that public, because that land has been hunted up. And they don't really abide by the laws anyways, so you're not going to see a whole lot of deer. I was like, just happened to me this fall, first day I was actually able to go out and hunt. Did an all day hunt, and I did a lot of ground and pound. I walked around because it's like, first ever walking into the hunt. And this was after first time ever stepping foot on the property. I'm looking for sign, I'm looking for travel, I'm looking for water, looking for food. So I covered probably at least 300 or 400 acres or 300 acres worth of land to walk through, up and down terrain, because where I live at in Wisconsin is a driftless area, so it's like it's all bluff country. There's no flat country until you get over by House in the Rock there, the fantastic place that Frank Lloyd Wright built. Once you get to that area, then it's all flat land. But
that's Spring Green, over by Spring Green.
Exactly. And so when I was out, there's like, out of 600 acres to hunt, I only found one deer, and that was like, then I was just I met another public land hunter out there. We're trying to talk. I was like, yeah, this is run by Amish. They pretty much have the lay of the land, and it's like, yeah, it kind of makes sense why we only saw one deer out of 600 acres that had both corn and soybean plant on it. You figure this would be everywhere, and it was nice and cool. It's been a very weird fall. I mean, this weekend we were peaking in the 40s. Christmas in a week from today is going to be 50 degrees outside, and it's going to be raining. So it's like, oddly enough, today is like the best day to go hunting in the last 2 weeks, the past 2 weeks and the next 2 weeks, because it's all going to be warm. It's like today's high was 21 degrees, and like today's the low was like 13 or 14. To actually, like, this would have been actually when they're going to get up on their feet moving around, but I had responsibilities of work, so here I am.
There you are. There you are. You know, so we've covered pay to play. We covered the value that an outfitter portrays, and we gave a shout out for Travis with Bigger Butts there, and Bigger Butts outfitter down in Illinois. Now,
Correct.
How many states have you hunted?
So let's see here. I've hunted in Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and now Illinois.
No, have you ever hunted out west?
No, I have not.
How
That
come?
has PTO, time off, and stuff like that, and then plus it's expensive because it's because you got to incorporate the fuel, the gas to get out there, the fuel to get out there, the food to get out there, the PTO to have the time to go off and do that stuff like that, and plus it's I haven't putting in the points too as well, so there's a lot of it just comes down to money. It's a very expensive thing to do, considering sometimes getting a tag in. From what I heard, it's like you'd be anywhere between $600 to $1,100, and then it's like, and then you have to drive out there, and it's like it's a very long drive back to go home. And I do also suffer from sleep apnea, and so that plays a role on what I can and cannot do because I need to have a machine to help me breathe, and it's like doing a 5, 10, 15 mile backcountry is just kind of out of the picture.
Right.
And I got bad knees too as well. I went out to Utah this past June, and I did a mountain archery fest out there, and I
I
shot
saw
all
a
three
picture.
core.
Yeah, I saw a picture of that.
I shot all 3 days, and my knees became so swollen on the third day that it's like I couldn't complete the course because it became a safety hazard for me trying to go back down because we started off at base camp at 10,000 feet. We had to work our way back up to 12,000 feet. And then we had to go down to 8,000 feet to get the lift to come back up. So out of all of that elevation change and walking down, and mind you, all I'm carrying is my arrows and my bow and some water. That's it. So I'm carrying maybe, well, my bow weighs about 9 pounds with everything that's on it. Then the arrows are probably 2 or 3 pounds, and I'm carrying 3 liters of water. So I was right around 30 pounds worth of weight, plus or minus, that I have to carry and walk around with. So, but it's like going up and down those hills. It's like, so it kind of really showed me that if I'm doing something like this, I really have to actually look at more, figuring out where I can go hunting that doesn't have me going up and down a lot of mountains. I mean, granted, I got to go with the elk car, but that really plays a role in like what time of year I go out there because we all know that at different times of the year, the elk are going to be at different heights, at different altitudes. So one is the best time to go out there to do that. We're at a lower altitude where I'm not having to possibly risk myself and then the team that I'm with because you don't want to be a liability when you're going out there hunting.
Right. So a lot of people ask me, they said, well, what does it cost for a DIY elk hunt? And, yeah, the tag, $700 for a bull tag. And you can archery, you can get some either sex tags. And then you get your gas. And I just ran from basically Wisconsin Dells to here, Dodgeville. Yeah, it's closer to Dodgeville. So Dodgeville to here, because I came home with a quarter beef. So it took me 15 hours of drive time to get home. So, and 6 tanks of gas times $40 is $240. It's the tank. So that's $1,000. Then that's food. So then, you're someplace around $2,000,
Mm-hmm.
minimum. And that's why I throw it up to people. I said, okay, you might pay an outfitter, drop camp, maybe $2,500, $3,000. And I don't know, because I'm not in the guiding business, I don't know if you can get a guided elk hunt for 5 days archery for under $3,000. I don't know that.
I got you.
And so it comes right back to a DIY hunt in Colorado. The success rate is under 20% all seasons. With an outfitter, you're getting up to 50 or 60%. Why? Because that's their business. Just like the whitetail hunters, you want the opportunity. And I don't think, Jeff, you did get a buck, but you had an opportunity. You saw him. He was there.
Yeah, so the situation was is that it was the evening after we got 3 inches of snow. The wind was going 25 miles an hour, and it was right at from 3 o'clock until last light, at which would have been 5:15. That was just an absolute party. And I'm looking around. I'm sitting down looking at this because Travis had set me up on a field edge where it had food that they came out with and a bunch of stocks. So there's plenty of food there for them to come through, even though I was hunting in November. But there's been food readily available all the way up until that day because it was the first time we actually had substantial amount of snow that actually would force them to get out of their bedding area essentially. And what ended up happening is that from 3 o'clock on, it's like I saw a nice little forky, a couple of does, but then right about let's see, I think it was about 4:15 or so. I'm looking around because I'm seeing all this movement about 60, 80 yards behind me, back up because the way the wind was coming is pushing my scent south of me, which is perfect because everything was all bedded up north of me. And I'm looking back there and I'm seeing all this thing, and it's like I have this nice big tree to block me, so I can look around the backside of it and look all the way out there without having to worry about being spotted, so I can be a little bit more vigilant, be a little bit more aggressive in my movements without having to be seen. Because the tree was probably, I don't know, 5 feet wide. I mean, it's just a massive tree, and I'm 6'2" guy, so I'm a tall man to be in this tree stand itself. And I'm looking around, I look back, it's like that's a shooter buck, that's a big buck, and it's like it was so cold outside I couldn't bring my binoculars up to my eyes because the steam from my breath was fogging everything up. So all I can know is like I could see it. It's like this is going to be awesome. So I'm grunting away. So this way it's like they can't see me, but there's so much brush coverage. It's like there's a buck out there that sees me, but it's like I don't know what's going on. So I'm grunting and I'm bleeding. So it's like, but doing it in a way that it's like I'm finessing the situation, which worked in my favor because come to find out, this 160 was following doe and heat, and she was following him, or she was leading. He was following him, but he had this little forky that he stayed between the two of them. And I'm watching her coming down. It's like she's going down the right path. It's like, okay, if everything works out, she's going to jump across the creek bed, hop in the field, and then boom, I'm going to have an opportunity because I have 40-yard lane to shoot into without any obstructions from it once they hit a certain distance. Well, I'm watching her come through, and she misses the wrong trail. She ends up going down into the creek bed and gets stuck. It's too tall for her to jump out of. It's like, okay, well, this could work out in my favor because she has to now come towards me, towards my stand, and then has to get back up and out and come back to around my stand to get out to the food plot, to where the corn, the standing corn that he had. And as they're getting closer, I'm seeing this rat get bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's like, all right, well, now I watched him go from 80 yards all the way down to 10 yards. But where he's coming through is a lot of cross cover brush. So there's no way I could take it. I could see him, but there's no way I can put a shot on the vitals without having deflection going on. So, but once he gets in this little spot where I've been waiting for him to hop into, I grab my bow and I come around. As I'm looking behind the tree, my bow's back over here, so now I turn around to go to the other side to be able to get a draw and be able to make it all happen. Well, as I'm getting myself situated, I'm watching him go perpendicular to me. It's like, this is not the shot I want. And he mounts her right there. It's like, all right, well, this could work in my favor. I'll let him finish, put an arrow in him. It's like, you can't go wrong, you know? And then it's like, then if she sticks around, I can arrow her, and I'm tagged out for the season. Well, that didn't work out in my favor. So what ended up happening is that after he finished, he went back up towards where the forky was to create the separation between the two of them. And luckily, as she kept on going, it opens up to a 40-yard lane, 20 yards wide. So this is perfect. Well, that buck kept on coming further back in the ravine, and he kept on walking to try to close him off to keep him from connecting with her. And it just never worked out. So I'm waiting, and it just never worked out. And I messaged several of my friends. It's like, I would have taken the shot. And it's like, I'm not going to spine the deer because like there's deer on my Facebook feed, all my social media that have been arrowed in the spine, and they're still walking around. They're not dead. And it's like, I'm risking a shot where it could be deflected off a lung and not actually hit any vitals, or I could just end up injuring him and not having an opportunity to shoot him again, because 75% of the opportunity he would run back up to where he came from, all back in the thick brush. And it's like, I'll never be able to successfully pull it off again to kill him, knock another arrow and shoot him. So it's like, well, I'm just gonna let him go. And it's like, and when I get back to the lodge, everybody gave me praise for doing the right thing on trying not to take it, because anybody that's seen the rib cage, and if the deer's live and they mount something, all those ribs come together like as if they're creating a shield across around the vitals. And it's like, I'm not gonna, it's just there was just too many things that outweighed for me to pull the trigger on it. So it's like, all right, and hopefully we're hoping there's going to be another buck, another opportunity to come across, but it never did present itself. And the thing is, like, when I got back to lodge, Travis and I were sitting there talking, and it's like he wanted to pinpoint which buck I was talking about, and he was showing me bigger bucks. Like, I was talking about a 160. He shows me a 170 and 180. That's all walking in the same area. So it's like, this is really exciting. It's like there's some really big animals here that have the potential to shoot that he doesn't even show on Instagram or Facebook or any of that stuff. So this way, it's like, this way when you're hunting the property, he'll do like almost like a one-on-one with you, and like, these are some of the possibilities of what you could see. And
That's
so it's like,
great.
well, so I continue hunting this property for a couple more days, and I sent you a picture. I did end up connecting with a doe. Well, and that worked out perfectly. I mean, it followed the script, came at 22 yards. I drew back, punched it straight through. When it did a pass through, it didn't bleed a lot, and it was a low heart shot. So I watched do this 160-yard swoop, bed down about 40 yards from my stand, and so it's like, it's dark now. So it's like, I'm gonna get down and I'm gonna walk, go grab my arrow, and I'm looking. I was like, I don't see a lot of blood. It's like, okay, and I watched her come from the field into the fence line there and sit down, and it's like, I don't see it moving anywhere else. So it's like, well, I'm gonna go leave underneath the cover of darkness, which worked out pretty well. And as I'm going back to where it's like, well, I thought where I put it, where it landed, like, there's two eyes staring right back at me. It's like, okay, well, so I got parallel with it, and it's like, I went the other direction. I just walked the opposite direction. And we decided to let it set overnight. I mean, it's like, it got cold. It got down to 0 degrees. So it's not going to have to worry about anything getting spoiled from it. And the coyotes haven't been in the area, so it worked out pretty well. Came back the following morning, got to where I shot it at, and we walked in, and I actually have video of it coming across the carcass of the animal itself. So it's like, yeah. So we cut it up. Well, I cut it up at my in-laws' place, because come to find out, he cannot process deer at his facility without having to go through a whole bunch of FDA, USDA rigmarole. And it's like, he says, if we even try to quarter this deer out right now, and if DNR decided to show up, he would get ticketed for it, because they have their own set of rules in Illinois, because it's Illinois. And yeah, so he's now looking at potentially buying a meat locker for processing everything, or he's going to build himself his own processing facility there on site. So this way it can alleviate that extra expense, because it was going to cost me $200. And it's like, well, I can break this deer down myself. And it's
Yeah.
like, as long as I don't take the car, what's that?
Hold on for a second, Jeff.
And then process it myself and brought it back up. Otherwise, he was going to tell me, it's like, well, I have a guy that you can do it. It's going to cost you $200. And it's like, I want to do it myself. And I come to find out that wasn't a service he could do legally without getting some type of pushback from the state. I feel bad for him, because there's a lot of guys out there like myself that really get the joy of processing the meat themselves.
Oh,
like
yeah.
gutting it and breaking it all down and having it bagged up the way they want. And I just feel bad for him, because that's a service that he can't offer legally without getting some type of penalty from the state.
Yeah. One thing, we've been hunting the same place for so long. We've got a crew that when we get a deer down, put it in a truck, take it over there, hang it up, and then we'll get 2 or 3 deer hanging, and then we'll just show up and process them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we don't have a meat locker per se, but we have the facility that's as good as any meat locker, and we don't charge. I mean, it's just for friends and family. So that's how we do it. So we've been on for a while. I want to give one shout out to my presenting sponsor for Hutch on Hunting. That would be Doug and Karen Roberts from Conquest Scents, maker of Elvercom, and a whole bunch of other great scent products. Doug's been a great friend, great supporter for Hutch on Hunting. So as 2023 comes to a close, Doug, I want to thank you for supporting me and Hutch on Hunting. That's it. You got any final words?
Uh, I guess the only final words I really have is like, don't look at outfitters as a evil. It's like look at them as a positive means for other people that may not have that opportunity. Because when I was in the camp there was a few people there from Chicago that don't have the opportunity or don't know anybody that has a property for them to hunt, or they don't have time for it. So these outfitters and these leases do play a role in the hunting realm to help continue the sport going on. Keeping the price tag low, it all comes down to between the insurance companies for protecting them, along with licensing and all everything else, and getting greedy behind it all. Because these animals are here put on this earth for us to eat. Everything else just gets exploited around it.
Thank you so much, Jeff Vance, and I wish you and your lovely wife and your daughter a very Merry Christmas.
You as well. Thank you. Merry Christmas to you as well.